Big game Bass boots in a 61-yard field goal for the Bills in overtime to beat the Dolphins 30-27 to go 7-2 in Orchard Park today. We're going to recap the entire game for Bills Mafia. Let's do it.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Pro Football Hall of Famer and former Buffalo Bill Andre Reed. You're listening to Nate and the Fellas on Circle the Wagons podcast. Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. Go Bills.
Where else would you rather be than right here, right now?
Hey, hey, let's go Buffalo. Hey, hey, let's go Buffalo. The Bills make me wanna shout.
Hey, what's going on, Bills Mafia? Welcome to another episode of Circling the Wagons, a Buffalo Bills fan podcast, Buffalo fan base, Bills Mafia podcast. We are going to discuss the Buffalo Bills beating the Dolphins just barely, man, just barely today in Orchard Park, 30-27. The Bills are now 7-2 on the season, and there's a lot of things to discuss. We're going to go over some stats of the game, our sweet, sassy, molassy plays of the game, our Wall of Fame and Wall of Shamers, and some hot takes with some help from our followers on Twitter. But first, I'd like to welcome my co-host, Mike, to this podcast, this episode. Mike, what's going on, man?
Nate, that kick would have been good from 70 plus. Don't you think? That was insane. You couldn't write something like that.
No, let's just dive right into that part.
75?
75? 78. 78 and a half yards. It was good. Mike, take us back to that moment when you're watching, Tyler Bass line up for what ended up being a franchise record field goal. And a guy who had missed a point after earlier that day had another point after doink off the uprights. And then you see him go back for a 61-yarder. You're like, well, let's see what happens here.
I did not, like, you might feel differently. I didn't feel like the Bills, it felt the whole time that they were going to win that game. Do you share that sentiment? Like, they weren't playing from behind. If the Dolphins had scored a touchdown, which unfortunately they did, right? Like, it wasn't like, okay, at the very least, we're going to go overtime and I like our chances.
Yeah.
Right. I heard people say that it took so much guts on McDermott's part to trot him out there, because if he misses, there's like, I thought the game, like, the Dolphins didn't have a play if Bass misses that, right? Unless they put somebody back there to try and run it back, like, there's 5, maybe 4 seconds left. If he misses, like, I didn't get a sense that they had any time left. So to me, it was not like, oh, McDermott showing it. Like, you've got a much better chance with Bass legging it through than Allen throwing a Hail Mary. Like, I didn't give McDermott credit for a gutsy decision there. Did you?
You mean you didn't at the time, or you are right now?
No, like, I thought that was the no-brainer.
Oh yeah, yeah. Why is he getting criticism for that?
No, I've heard a lot of people say, like, oh, well, it took guts in the sense, like, the Dolphins would have a chance to, hey, a real quick pass and try their own field goal or a Hail Mary or something like that. And that never even entered my mind. It was, hey, Bass is going to win it, or we're going to overtime.
Yeah, if you're between,
which negates the, oh my gosh, what an amazing call by McDermott. Like, I didn't see any other play.
No, same here. I mean, if you're gonna ask your kicker to kick a 61-yarder to win it, or ask Josh Allen to throw what would end up being like around a 60-yard pass in the end zone, I mean, yeah, I don't even know if Keon Coleman came back from that hit Poyer put on him to, like, and they were already out Amari Cooper. I mean, yeah, no brainer, 1,000%. You have to at least try it. Right. So,
and I think mentally it's way better. Like, if he for Bass, like, if he misses, it's not game over, right? You're not kicking for, hey, we lose. It's like, hey, it's kind of gravy.
Yeah, they were
the better team. If we can extend the game, Allen will figure out a way to win it. But I have a shot to do it now, so let me kick it as hard as I can. I hope it goes straight.
Yeah. I know. I'm trying to think of, like, an analogy of where that would happen in real life, right? Like, where, I don't know if it's like a golf thing where, you have like a 200-yard shot and you know you can hit it 200 yards. It was just like, well, it's either going to spray left, spray right, or go right down the fairway. And I've been spraying them right all day. So let's just hope that this one is not that way. Yeah, it's
A
I thought it
sports
was
analogy for explaining
another sport.
a sports moment.
Or like a half court shot, right? Like just putting one up there. But the thing is with
exactly. I like that one. Like a half court shot when the game is tied. It's just like, what do we have to lose?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't love how they let the Dolphins hang around, but I think the Dolphins entering the season, right? A lot of people thought they were going to win the AFC East. They're a great, and I think they've really fell in hard times with Tua being out, right? Like, quite frankly, like they're a much better team than their record would suggest. So like, I wanted the Bills to handily beat them, but I'm really glad we don't have to play them again, because I think when healthy, they're a good team.
Yeah, they're a halfway decent team.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. And the fact that they're now 2-6, which, you know, their season's not over, but
hopefully
hopefully.
just destroyed any last remnant of hope.
Yeah, I mean, they're a couple of games out of still like at least 2 games, maybe 2.5 games now out of the last wild card spot in the AFC as of now.
Are they still in the hunt?
Dude, this feels like being 2-5, or what are they? Are they 2-5 or are they 2-6 now? 2-6. That's like how the Bills would feel. It would be like, are we still in the hunt, you know, in November? Okay. By November, as Bills fans, we'd be out of the hunt, wouldn't we?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Or we'd be that part after in the hunt, right? Like it's like still a mathematical chance. Like, but we would have to win out and everyone else would have to lose out, and then we might maybe get into a wild card spot. Yeah.
And then we'd have to, all our starters would have to play against Pittsburgh's like third stringers.
Oh man. Yeah. Yeah. And then fail.
Yeah.
Us with
that's redundant. Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, of course. Us with everything to game, then them with nothing to lose and getting absolutely shellacked. Yeah.
So like I was kind of disappointed like at the halftime adjustments, like because everybody I was watching with, it was like, okay, wish we had done better, but hey, last couple weeks we were a second half team, and you question some of the coaching decision making, but they really come out of the half and make adjustments and stop the run by and large, which did not happen today. Just let them it changed, like 2 heavyweight fighters exchanging blows. It just went back and forth, and we're really lucky that the Bills were ahead, like weren't playing from behind.
Yeah, I mean, they were at one point. You're like, hey, wait, what's going on? It felt like, you know, I know we're going to go sweet, sassy, molassy plays of the game, but like the Gettysburg of the game, for me, especially if they had lost, but I still think it was a turning point, was that Keon Coleman drop pass rather, and drop catch, and Jalen Ramsey picking it up and them being like within striking distance for a touchdown, which looked like it was going to be a touchdown if he had caught that. And then that
huge
just
momentum
changed
shift.
Huge momentum shift. And they didn't really truly get that back the entire game, really. You know, like they were fighting for the momentum the entire game. And then there were, you know, some poor penalties. But Mike, let's go back to Tyler Bass, because I don't want to get off that point right just yet, because, I mean, enough can't be said about the fact that just what he's been through the last year. And we don't know if it's truly over yet, especially even though he made a franchise record, you know, 61-yarder to win the game. He didn't look great at the beginning of the game, but I mean, he's dealt with a lot of, you know, ups and downs. I don't know if you saw that post-game speech with McDermott in the locker room, but he brings Tyler Bass up for the game ball, right? And he brings him up and he says what he says about Tyler Bass, how great he is, etc. And then Tyler Bass goes to speak, and it's like he gets choked up like right away. So this isn't just like, yeah, you know, I knew this was going to be great, blah, blah, blah. It was like this guy was feeling it, and everything that you kind of thought he might have been going through, he was going through. And you can tell the way the team was picking him up, the way Josh Allen, I don't know if you saw that post-game press speech with you know, when he does the on the field thing, but he was getting choked up when the reporter was asking him about Tyler Bass, which was just kind of like, wow, you know, it's cool. I hope this is the start of, you know, we're talking momentum shifts in the game. I hope this is a momentum shift for his season and hopefully his career. with the Bills that this is where he ends up, because I mean you root for the guy, you want him to do well. It's just frustrating when he's like the lowest percentage point after kicker in the NFL, and then he does this. He totally redeems himself, but it's frustrating. It's an amazing story, and it's frustrating at the same time.
Oh, aren't you struck by how trivial the events are that like rule your life? Because like it just as easily could have missed that, and like it's very transactional. It misses that. Everybody would be like, "Get that bum out!" Like he makes it. Oh, he's a hero for this week.
For this week, we give him one more week. Okay,
it's bittersweet, kind of.
Yeah, everything's a transaction. I feel like I figured that out in high school. Everything's our friendship. Yours and my friendship is transactional.
Totally.
People 100%. Viewing this
100%.
People listening and viewing this transact completely. Yeah.
Too bad you can't figure out a way to monetize that transactional nature a little bit.
Well, I mean, are you talking about our friendship? Like, find a way to monetize that?
No, I meant
okay.
Listening.
Be like, Mike, how much would you pay me to still be my friend? Is that dollar amount $5?
Like at the bottom, you just have the same stuff scrolling. It should be like, drink Coke. I don't know, something.
Oh, I'll do a new one. You think I won't do a new one? Let's see. Here we go.
I want you to be getting paid for it. That's the crux.
That's the next thing. Advertisers is the next thing, Mike. We're going to put a little logo down there at the bottom between the Circling the Wagons and the Buffalo Bills logo. We're going to say,
the problem with us, here's the problem with us. Like
yes.
when we were born, the big thing was like, don't sell out. So that's always in the back of our minds. Like, oh, that'd be selling out. That's why we're not more successful. I feel.
Is that the first time in history that selling out has been a bad thing in life, right? Like, because we grew up in the 90s with like grunge, and there was just like Kurt Cobain saying, singing about how dumb every other song is while making millions of dollars off of it, right? Like making fun of the whole musical genre or the 80s music. And yeah, we were born in just a little too late. Or a little too early, or whatever the case is. Is selling out good now? I feel like selling out is a great thing now. Yeah. But we were brought up not to. And the Catholic guilt too. That doesn't help. We'd be like, should I actually make some money? No, that's not right. You should do this for free. You should just love to do it just to do it. It's like, well, okay, all right. Anyway,
what a
Catholic.
Crock.
I know what a crock.
If you enjoy what you do, you'll never work another day.
I enjoy watching TV all day.
So whatever, McDermott. Why challenge that obvious first down just to burn it that time out and make it that much harder?
Do you think I was thinking about this later? Do you think he did that to like give his defense a break for a second too? Like it's like almost like a timeout. Like
I think you can talk yourself into it in the sense of like, oh, if by some miracle it worked out, the benefit would so far outstrip the cost, but there was no chance it was going to happen. None whatsoever.
Absolutely none.
Just hope and a prayer, and that's no way to do it, because like it worked out, but it very easily might not have worked out. Like that extra timeout could have proven to be pivotal. Like use the middle of the field, get 10 yards closer. Like, yeah, I don't think it'll be evaluated to that extent because, hey, it happened, but that's maybe not how it should be looked at.
Yeah, it should be criticized a little bit more, not based on the outcome, but based on that instance of the fact that he shouldn't have challenged that one. Like, who is giving him that advice? You're talking about the one where Tua, like, basically dove over the first down marker. Right. Yeah, it wasn't like it was even
like
close.
A yard. Yeah.
In order to overturn it, it can't be close. It has to be like beyond a reasonable doubt, right? So as soon as they called it, I'm like, they're not going to switch it back, because they showed an instant replay and it was very clearly he had at least a yard. If anything, they probably were like, yeah, we're not overturning it. Plus, we're going to give him another yard because we didn't spot the ball far enough. Right. But you're right. He does deserve credit for that. He does not have a good record. I haven't checked his record in about a season or two, but I believe it was like 5 of 19 the last time I checked of challenges. Not great, Bob. Not a great stat. Yeah. There was a few things here real quick. Let's go into stats of the game. And this is where I get to put in a new banner. So stats of the game. Oh yeah. And then I also get to do Josh Allen, 25 for 30 or 29 for, I'm sorry, 25 for 39, 235 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. The interception not really being his fault. John or Mike, how would you rate how would you rate John was at the game today. I was hoping he would make it today, but he was busy, even though we've recorded the game plenty of times right after a game that we went to. But some people don't have the work ethic that we do, Mike. The work ethic to do it for free. That's it. But what were your thoughts on Josh Allen's performance in this win? We used to do 5, fire emojis out of 5 rating. What were your thoughts on this?
I thought both he and Tua played great games week in and week out. Love his performance. Glad he's our quarterback. Like that first pick, like we know it's last year he really got hammered on picks that weren't his fault, and this year he got really lucky. So it's kind of like regression of the mean. You start to expect, right? So like, oh man, it definitely wasn't his fault, that first pick, but it came second half, just put the team on his back. And some of those runs that just kept getting called back on the phantom calls, you're jumping up and down screaming and like, oh, he's the greatest, and none of that's going to show up anywhere because like the refs and the fake calls. But
both those holding calls,
touchdown, but
both those holding calls look like BS, right? Like, I mean, they're ticky tacky at best. At best,
I can't even say ticky tacky. I just don't even see it.
When I think of hold,
whatever.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, because I posted on Twitter and some folks were like, "Well, the first one was definitely a hold." I'm like, I don't think that was even a hold.
No,
there was one play which it was it was when he scrambled for that first down we just talked about, that McDermott challenge. If you look back at the replay, and they never showed it again after the first time they showed the replay because I was going to screen grab it, Von Miller pushes the left tackle back into Tua, and as Tua comes out of the pocket to run, Von Miller goes to follow him to tackle him and sack him, but he gets bear hugged by the right tackle. Like literally, the guy had his arms around him, and I'm throwing my hands in the air watching it live. Like, what the hell? It's a complete how does that not call? That's a complete hold. If you're gonna call the ticky tack ones, or the ones that aren't a holding call, that are, it's times like these where I'm like, either the league is rigged, or B, these officials are completely delinquent. That's not the word, but you know what I mean? Like they're awful, or it could be C, both, right? Like it's how do you call those? And then in a moment like this, where Tua runs for it, like he was bear hugged. Like I would love to have the all 22 to show that to folks so you could see it. But I agree with you though, Josh Allen, like that long run won't show up in the stat line. I thought items like that, him overcoming certain obstacles.
The play that really stuck out for me for Allen was the Quentin Morris touchdown, like where Allen is just being dragged down, and that made it 27-20, and like the Bills, right? It just like, hey, we're ahead. Even if they score, it's just going to be the tie. Like it gave me a lot of comfort, and I didn't think a lot of quarterbacks were big and strong enough to two guys were dragging him to the ground, and like it didn't look like Morris was even like looking back at that point when he released the ball.
Yeah, that was bro. That was going to be my sweet sassy molassy play of the game. What are you doing? Spoiler. Geez, spoiler alert. You're doxing my sweet sassy molassy play of the game. That was a great play. Spoiler alert. That was an amazing play for sure. I didn't even notice that Morris was not looking back for the ball when it was in the air, but I believe it.
He might have been looking.
Would have been looking. He's looking for someone to block. His helmet was on backwards. He had no reason to catch that ball. Yeah, everything you said, Josh Allen. I thought he had a good game. It was a slow start again in the first half for him and the offense. Like the first 3 and out, you're like, oh, I hope this isn't an indicator of things to come. And it was. The interception, some punts.
It's really too bad they can't script the beginning of a game better. Just the point differential between, it's negative for the first quarter, and then they wasn't evident today, but blow teams out in second, third, and fourth typically.
Yeah. And the defense usually comes alive too in that time frame too. They struggled as well.
But you don't understand, like you're picking the plays. It's not really the game dictating it at that point. Like why are you having 3 and outs? Why are you running into such a brick wall week in and week out?
Why are your scripted plays to start the game so easily diagnosed by the other team? Do you think, when they do script like the first, I don't know how many plays of the game, do you think that as soon as they go 3 and out and they punt it, they're just like, all right, throw out the script, like it's clearly not working? Or do you think that, no, man, we got to stick with it. We got to keep
Well,
it
you
going.
or I would have it scripted out. Like, hopefully they've considered all those scenarios, right? Like, okay, if we go 3 and out, we'll go to this script.
They have like a whole.
It's not just you do that and like.
They do that and they're panicked. They're like, we have no answer for this. If it was me, there'd be like 3 or 4 scripts on the desk, just tossing scripts out one by one, or you just stick with it and just handle it. But Josh Allen, like I mentioned, I think Josh had an above average game today. I think it wasn't his best game. He usually does really, really well against the Dolphins, but I think it was a slightly above average game for him. Of course, average for him, 235 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, another 7 yards rushing, almost a touchdown that was called back. Yeah, above average. James Cook, leading rusher for the Bills, 10 carries for 44 yards, 4.4 yards per carry. Ty Johnson had 3 carries for 23 yards. Ray Davis had 4 carries for 20 yards. Ray Davis was the leading receiver for the Buffalo Bills, Mike. 2 targets, 2 receptions, 70 yards. He had that long 63-yard touchdown that put the Bills up 27-20. And I think that was the one. No, maybe that was.
I think
earlier.
that made it 20-13.
2013. Yeah. But what a play. I mean, there were a lot of sweet sassy molassie play the game options to choose from in this one. So that was on the list too. Khalil Shakir, the next leading receiver for the Bills, 6 receptions on 7 targets for 50 yards. And then Mac Hollins, Dalton Kincaid, 4 receptions on 10 targets for 32 yards. You know what's also interesting, Mike, just going over this, thinking about that. Josh Allen, he looked a little bit off at times, didn't he? Throwing the ball, like some of them were hitting the dirt. Part of me was wondering that there was an issue with his hand because you saw him grab his hand earlier in the game from a hit he had taken. And I was kind of wondering if that was a lingering issue throughout the game because he was uncharacteristically throwing some into the dirt.
Lot, like later in the game, yeah.
Which it just wasn't his. It's not usually what he does. Like when he misses guys, I don't necessarily think he even overthrows them. He usually just like it's off a little bit or they drop it. It's not. He usually doesn't. Yeah, bounce them like that. So. Yeah, Mac Hollins had that touchdown. He also had that. Oh, no, Keon Coleman had that 2-point conversion later in the game. On the Miami side of the ball, Tua Tagovailoa, 25 for 28, 230 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like you mentioned, Mike, Tua had a great game today. Back to his old self. I mean, I never didn't like Tua. I still think he's a good quarterback. You can clearly see how much better the Dolphins are with him than without him when he was out those 4 or 5 games. But I think this could have easily gone either way. I thought he did everything he needed to, and the Bills, unlike last time, they just really couldn't throw him off his rhythm. Devon Achane, leading rusher for the Dolphins, 12 carries, 63 yards, 1 touchdown. Raheem Mostert, 10 carries for 56 yards. And then on the receiving side of the ball, Tyreek Hill, which normally he doesn't have a great game against the Bills, 4 receptions on 5 targets for 80 yards. Then Devon Achane was the second leading receiver for the Dolphins, 8 receptions on 8 targets for 58 yards, 1 touchdown. I believe I had a prop bet for him having more. It was like the over-under receiving yards for Devon Achane was like 39 and a half. And it feels like he always gets his through the air. Like he might not rush for 100 yards, but he'll at least get like 50, 60 yards receiving,
Bro, is gambling the new fantasy? Like, you just trying to.
Dude,
brag me?
I was almost thinking about. I won't tell you the ones I lost.
Tell me
I
before it happens, not after.
Do you want me to like these? Because I'll do it. I'll let you know what I'm thinking. No. I'm listening to the pregame show. I'm usually like doing something around the house, so I'm listening to the pregame show. And
I don't want to I'd get addicted, probably, man.
Well, it isn't the like single prop bets it gets you because you might, if you bet $5, you might make $5, you might lose $5, but it's when you start parlaying them together to make an SGP, man. That's
it's always like it can't be good if it's like, oh, bet $5, lose, win, get 500 back.
It's unlikely to happen, right? Dude, you got to make that bet though.
All right.
Gotta try
Send me
it.
a referral code.
I'll send it. I'll put it in the show notes. So those are stats.
Do we each get something?
Sure. Especially if we win it. Okay. All right. Those are stats of the game. Let's go into Sweet Sassy Molassy plays of the game. Mike, I think Chad Labrie pretty much sums it up here. He gives it to Tyler Bass, the 61-yard field goal to win the game. I mean, all things considered, I don't know how you can't use that one for how meaningful it was, and just it was such a big play to win the game. Can you even? I mean, there was a lot of honorable mentions I'll go over, but did you have one besides that? I know I said the Quentin Morris touchdown, but I mean, I can't give it to him. I was going to, but it's got to be the Bass 61-yard field goal. Do you have another one, Mike? Am I losing you?
I would say like the Morris touchdown for me is just the play by Allen and then Morris, like to put him up 27-20. The only thing I could say against the Bass kick is if he misses, they keep playing. But yeah.
But if they keep playing and then the Bills either score a field goal or a touchdown to win it, then you're probably giving it, well, maybe if it's not a chip, a chip shot field goal. Of course, that's still a big deal for Bass. If it came down to a 35-yarder, we'd still be pumped that he made it. Gone are the days of Ryan Lindell making everything from 40 and under for sure every single time.
Yeah, you're right.
But I mean, I usually put in my notes Sweet Sassy Molassy plays of the games, and I usually put a few asterisks next to it if it's a good one, and I had the most after that Quentin Morris touchdown. That was classic Josh Allen. Mike, what other quarterback do you think in like NFL history makes that pass the way he does? I'd argue for one or two of them that I can think of off the top of my head.
Ben Roethlisberger, Big
Ben. That's about it. It's almost like Josh, though, is an upgrade over Big Ben in a lot of different ways.
Oh, hell yes.
And I'm not even talking about like
every way. Seriously.
Yeah.
Athleticism, speed.
Yeah.
Big Ben's thing was like, it was hard to get him down.
It was hard to get him down. He wasn't mobile. He just could like move enough, where people could not bring him down. He had a good
Whereas
arm.
Allen is trucking guys.
Yeah.
It's not just scrambling around in the pocket, moving left and right.
Yeah, shuffling with his with his Bigfoot feet. I mean, he is. If I were to put him in a quarterback thing, it's so funny. Like, I think Big Ben for his ability to stay in the pocket and take hits, and then it would be, I mean, Brett Favre's gunslinger mentality, right? Chucking the ball, his boyish love for the game, Brett Favre, right? Cam Newton's ability to run the ball, because I was just thinking he's definitely not like Michael Vick level, but he's Cam Newton level. Like, I mean, he puts his body out there. And I'm trying to think passer wise, like actual accuracy passer wise. I mean, that one's tough because he's good. He's great, but he's not perfect. So you couldn't put him on like Pat Mahomes level. Although Pat Mahomes still, I'm trying to think of a good Steve Young, me. I don't know. It's good. It's good, whatever it is. But anyway, I'm going to give honorable mention of Sweet Sassy Molassy play the game to that Quentin Morris touchdown. I'm also going to give one to that. We mentioned the Ray Davis 63-yard touchdown catch. I mean, what a great play by him. He was almost going to be tackled by two safeties, and he somehow split the difference there and made it the way. I mean, Ray Davis is he's just not a burner, right? He's not like James Cook. When James Cook gets in the open field, which isn't often, he can take the distance easily. Ray Davis is not that way, but it was a great play. Also going to give I don't even know if I can do this, Mike. I want to give an honorable mention to that play that didn't count where Elam stripped the ball from Odell Beckham Jr. It didn't count, but man, that was a great heads up play. It was so close, so close to getting him out, but getting the ball out. But yeah. All right, let's go into our wall of fame and wall of shame in this one before we head over to Twitter for this. Mike, do you want to give your wall of fame for this?
Go ahead, man. Convince me.
I mean, he gets the game ball from Sean McDermott, a guy that he hasn't had it. And today
not if you're missing extra points, dude.
But
the fact they had to go for two and get it.
They overcame it though. And he doinked one, and I thought, isn't it more important to do it when it matters as opposed to the first quarter, right? Like anyone can screw up in the first quarter. Nobody thinks of it because it was 3 quarters ago. You just remember what happens. Like,
well, I'm remembering it. Not just being prisoner of the moment, the last possible thing.
Like, remember that Von Miller offsides call that like completely wiped out a
crushing.
Destructive. And we don't give him garbage for it because it wasn't towards the end of the game, right?
He's going to be my wall of shame just for that.
Oh, really? Okay, all right. I thought he was going to come back pissed off too. I thought he was going to just tamer than ever. Not even angry. It's like he was more at peace than ever.
Just line up wider. Like when we played Madden, just like move the guy farther and farther and farther out.
Why not?
Because all he's doing is running directly in, trying the spin move and not working. You got to go farther and farther out and then dip the shoulder. Like try that move.
Dip the shoulder. Dude, how do we get you in on his? Can I I'll DM him on Instagram.
Yeah, all right.
Be like, dude, my co-host Mike says you just need to go wide, like super wide, like almost to the cornerback, right? At the boundary cornerback.
Yeah.
And make a beeline and get that arm underneath.
Just that leverage.
That leverage. Do it. That made me think of that Dawkins holding call where the guy was running at him and Dawkins did that thing where like when the guy tries to put his hands in his chest to push him back, he just like drops his hands. He knocks his hands down. The guy just falls and collapses right on the ground. Yeah. They're just like holding. I'm like, the guy didn't even hold. He didn't even have a chance to hold. Anyway. Yeah, that doesn't happen to Von though. Von just runs into the guy. And then he gets bear hugged when he tries to spin out of it. No call. Are you going to, let me guess who you're going to give it to. Josh Allen. If it wasn't for all, even if he hadn't gone through any adversity, just Tyler Bass being able to hit a franchise record 61-yard field goal when it matters, it's hard for me to not give it to him. If it wasn't him, now I will say, if it wasn't him, then I think you give an honorable. I think you give it to Josh Allen all day.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't the game probably, but sometime we got to give it to Shakir. Just it's a different team with him.
Yeah.
You know, just anything near him, he catches, and just speed and ability to break tackles. Like, man, they'd be in such a different spot without him.
Yeah, I think I was listening to the pregame show with Chris Brown and Eric Wood and Sal Capaccio, and they were talking about the catch percentage of wide receivers or all receivers, tight ends, running backs. And it's Khalil Shakir at the very top, and then it's like 25 tight ends and running backs, and then the next wide receiver. Like, it's not even close. It's not even like he's just a few percentage points more than the next guy. Like, there's a huge gap between the next best receiver. So, yeah, Khalil Shakir, you're right. I don't know if we've ever given it to him at all this season. But he is, this is a different team without him.
And so, like, Allen definitely puts the team on his back, but today – it wasn't that disparity between him and the other quarterback he's dueling. Like, you could make the case, like Tua was 25 for 28, 2 TDs, no picks, right? QBR, like 20 points higher than Josh. Like, so as much as the Bills go as Allen goes, like I don't think you make the case like he vastly outperformed the opponent in his position, right? Shakir was like, I don't know. Nobody just elevated to that extent for me today.
Yeah, Shakir's a great outlet for Allen, it seems like. And I mean, I mention this every week, I feel. So if you've ever heard us, I keep saying that he's just so good with the ball in his hands too. Not just the catching. The catching alone is better puts him head and shoulders above a lot of guys that we've had, recently. But then also his ability, like you say, he just doesn't go down. Like
the yards after the catch is just different. Remember, like if we got Diggs on a crossing route, it was like, down.
Yeah, exactly. Or Cole Beasley, he'd catch it and then just fall down, right? Dive.
Right.
He wasn't taking any hits. Khalil Shakir he's just slippery. Would someone call him the pinball? I like that nickname because he's like that. Yeah.
I feel like the pinball is for like big guys that are running right between the tackles, bouncing around.
Pinballs are kind of small though in the grand scheme of things. right? In a pinball game. Like I don't ever think like, oh man, that's a big pinball right there. Like the
it's
thing's so tiny,
relative.
I can't even get it through. Keeps going through my flippers. Can't
But
seem
they're
to do it.
round. He's not round.
Yeah, true. I think of bowling balls when I think of big running backs, like round running backs.
Like thunder and lightning. Like the thunder is the pinball.
Yeah, the pinball. I never
Or
associate
the bowling
thunder
ball.
with yeah, Shakir's definitely gonna get. You know what's unfortunate too about the Bills' offense is that the Dolphins were missing a lot of good players on defense due to injury, and the Bills couldn't really. I mean, they still scored 30 points, but they could have probably scored a lot more, taking advantage. Like they were missing their best. I mean, the Dolphins were missing their two defensive ends, their two starting defensive ends, and their defensive tackle on the defensive line. The Bills should have been able to completely take advantage of it. They're missing at least one safety. It's probably their best player on defense. So they should have taken advantage of the passing game a little bit more. But again, it's a divisional opponent. You can't really take that for granted because they know you so well. But it would have been nice to take advantage of that a little bit more than they did. So that was Wall of Fame. We didn't do Wall of Shame. Mike, who's on your Wall of Shame? Was it going to be Von Miller?
I get just the disparity between expectation and reality for me.
In general, in life?
Just like the excitement of having him back, like such the big contract, coming back from the injury, coming back from the suspension. Like my eye just gravitates to him when he's out there third in a passing down, and like haven't seen like so not really a well, I guess I was gonna say not really a boneheaded play, but that third, was it third and three? I don't know, but like the Bills had him off the field, and yeah, I guess with that penalty it puts me over for giving it to Von Miller.
Yeah, it's tough. I can't really come up with, I mean, besides officiating, I hate doing officiating though, because I hate it because I keep feeling like I have to do it. I'm gonna give it to officiating, but I do like Von Miller. It was a disappointing return for him. I was hoping for a lot more. And the thing that stinks, Mike, is that when he's on the field, he does take some Greg Rousseau snaps away from him on that side because they both seem to use that same side for pass rushing. So I was kind of hoping for more from Von, but I'm going to give it to officiating. It was a poorly officiated game, especially in those two instances where it really mattered. And then there were some other ticky-tack calls that I didn't really like, but it was a good game. I mean, overall though, this is the kind of game you want. You want to watch. I would rather have a relaxing game, but in the grand scheme of things, a close game where your team wins. I mean, that's the best. That's the best game of all to watch, right? A Super Bowl where your team wins like on the last second play, right? Like that sounds amazing. I'm all in for that. And this was one of those games. So let's kick it over to Twitter, where I mentioned, if you're not following us, please do. We're at CTW Pod, like Circling the Wagons Pod. After every game, I say, give us your hot take for the Bills' victory or loss. And Miss T at Misty Rose 78 says, no matter how many draft picks and how much money is thrown at various players, McBean can't seem to get players on defense to defend the run. They're not great at the pass or rushing the passer either. Starting slow is getting old. Bass is hit or miss, but hit is the biggest moment. Yeah, it's so funny because the Bills stopped the run great last week. They were amazing against the Seahawks. And then, a few weeks before that, they were awful against Derrick Henry and the Ravens. It's like we don't really know how good this team is at stopping the run. One thing I will say, though, is, Mike McDaniel, like they mentioned, was the run game coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers before he came to Miami. He wasn't the pass game coordinator, so he's going to throw a lot of run looks at you. He's going to do well at running the ball, and he did today. So I still think the Bills need to work on that. But, yeah, and then rushing the passer, again, that wasn't really – there were plenty of times, Mike, where I saw Tua just kind of sit back there and take his time where he didn't have to go through his first read. So let's see. Phil Masterson says, this team will be the reason I die early on, but it warms my heart that we cannot play well and the Dolphins still can't beat us. Honestly, Wall of Fame for Tyler Bass today for the game-winning kick. Ulysses says, got to tip your cap to Bass. It was a clutch kick. Mrs. KCB says, how long was it? It's all a blur for me, LOL. Charles Burns says, wall of shame, Poyer for the cheap hit. Dude, Mike, what'd you think about that cheap shot by Poyer? Like to knock out Keon Cole? I don't think Keon even came back into that game. I was kind of disappointed with that. I know it got us the first down, but that was disappointing to see.
Hate to see it. Got beat on one of the touchdowns, right?
Yeah. Was it the Ray Davis one? I think it might have been.
Was it the?
Well, he was beat last time. Remember, James Cook had that touchdown against him. He just ran right past Poyer. So he's pissed off, man. Dude,
Maybe
Father Time.
Maybe
undefeated.
Bean. That's a good move by Bean.
Yeah. I don't think any of us have thought, even though our safety play hasn't been amazing, I don't think any of us have looked at Jordan Poyer and been like, man, I really miss that guy. You know, I mean, I miss him as a player, as a teammate on the team because he was so likable and he put everything out there every single week.
Well, he had a lot of penalties. Shots to the head.
Just example.
But yeah,
today.
totally, I agree with you. Poyer, yeah.
Taylor Rapp's doing well at taking over that spot with these like hits and there was one play where Raheem Mostert had like a 20-yard catch, and then Taylor Rapp had a good hit on him on the sidelines, but then Taylor Rapp came up talking smack. It's like, dude, he just had a 20-yard catch on you guys. What junk could you possibly be talking to him? And then the next play, Raheem Mostert fumbles it. So maybe there's something to be said. Maybe I don't know anything. Charles Byrne also says, Wall of Fame, Bass's kicks, 61-yard field goal, kicking Bass, and taking names. Note, I think Amari Cooper's presence on the field was missed. I agree with Charles on that one. Big Mike says, I'm surprised that they didn't try for the Hail Mary with Josh Allen's arm and Bass's inconsistent play. There you go, Mike. It's not like they weren't due for one to go their way instead of it happening against them. Chad Labrie says, sloppy victory today. Offense and defense started sluggish and worked some of it out of their system in 2.5. Needed to focus on keeping their eyes on the prize and play more dominating ball in the first half of the games. Still not Nate's burner account. Dude, sounds like it's exactly what I said, Chad. Quote unquote, Chad. Everyone knows whenever I make up a name on this podcast, it's Jeff. For some reason, Jeff is my made up name. If I ever have a burner, it's going to be like Jeff in Richmond. Jeff, something. Big R says this is a game we should have lost with how awesome Tua was, but we got Josh Allen, and even with injured wide receivers, we prevail. Yeah, for sure. Big R, by the way, Big R, shout out to Big R. By the way, he helps at times coming up with like the title of the podcast, which I really appreciate. But his wife is also an author, and he sent us 3 of her most recent books, which was super cool. Freddy versus the Family Curse, which I just started with the kids yesterday. Thea and the Mischief Makers, and the Cookie Crumbles, by his wife Tracy Badua. So shout out to Big R for sending those. I never ask folks to send us anything, and not like there's a ton of things being sent to CTW, but appreciate the hell out of it from Big R, and I can't wait to read it. So thank you for that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Do you want to read it, Mike? I'll let you read it when we're done. I mean, it's mostly for middle schoolers, but you like to read. Glad to see, dude. It's so funny because I was never a reader. I know you're a big reader, like in general. I always find that fascinating. I wish I was a better reader. So part of the joy of reading to my kids, especially now that they're reading chapter books and stuff, is like, I can read these books. I can do this. These aren't so bad. It's like, it's pathetic that I get excited about children's books, but also maybe, hey, by the time they're like adults, I'll be able to read regular adult books again. So
it's cool. People are sending you books. That's awesome.
Yeah. You offered it. It was just like, hey, I know that, you have like, yeah, like, absolutely. Thank you. And I got to post on social media, so I have to still do that. But shout out to Big R. Shout out to Big R too. Not only that, like he'll tweet me, he'll message me like titles for the podcast. And the dude is very creative. Like, so give him credit for that. Anakin Skywalker says Poyer wasn't just leaving Buffalo without a Bills win. That last drive had 3 and out, punt, and Miami chance to walk it off all over it. I still don't know what I watched in the final 130. Never apologized for a win, but geez. Yeah. I got to share this tweet that someone, I'll try to show it on my, not that this ever works, but this graphic right here. Oh, of course. Oops. Can you see that, Mike?
Yeah.
Yeah. It basically is a graph. It says, oh boy, I'm excited to watch my favorite team play at the very beginning. The rest of the thing is I'm going to unalive myself. And at the very end, nice, we won. Nice. Cool. Read a couple more. Rory Doolin, kick his ass, T-Bass. Absolutely. Jason Statham, my hot take is we're slightly fortunate to get the win there. We need to sort the run defense out. Hopefully Bass's confidence will skyrocket after that. See, I'll do a couple more. Bill Lasso, happy for Bass. I know he deserves some criticism, but gotta love how Bill's Mafia rallies for him. The big dumb QB haver says only let Bass kick from 45 plus, apparently.
Maybe it'll be a new thing, like having 2 kickers. Maybe we're ahead of our time.
We're ahead of our time, double the kickers, yeah.
Like in baseball, like the first team that comes up with the reliever, and like you could look back at this. Yeah, you could have a kicker for just P, then you have a kicker 20 to 40, you have a kicker 40 plus. Bro, you laugh. That could be a thing.
I'm laughing because of how genius it is and how dumb I was for not thinking about that earlier. That's great. You have, don't even just wait for the kickers. Bring 2 kickers out in the field at the same time, 2 holders, and you don't even know which one he's going to snap to. Is he going left or right? Is he going short or deep? You have no idea. So the teams have no idea how to defend that or how to block it, right? So you only block one side, and the defense has no idea which side to block. So why do I always have to go over the line? Like, you had a great point, 2 kickers. I'm just like, yeah, that's on the field at the same time, of course. Just got to try to one-up it, Nate. Just stay in your lane, Nate. Just enjoy Mike's great opinion. Okay, AJ Tharp, Tyler Bass is to kicking what Dawson Knox is to catching. I love that one. Remember that was a thing for Dawson Knox when he used to actually get the ball thrown to him back in the day, is he would drop the easy, like, right in the hands, and then like this diving toe tap catch in the corner of the end zone. Touchdown. I love that. I'm gonna end it on that one. That was really good. Thank you, AJ. Thanks to everyone else for being a part of it. Mike, it was great talking with you for this win. The Bills are 7-2. Just in general, do you think that this could be the year? Because okay, all right. This is okay. I thought you would just talk about it a little. Have you thought about that? Like, hey, maybe this is a team of destiny a little bit, or is that because this time last year they were 5-4, 4-5. They weren't doing nearly as well. And now I know they have a few tough games. I mean, they have the Colts next week. That's not super tough, but the week after that, they have the Chiefs, the bye week, and then the 49ers. So those are a tough stretch of 2 games right there. But I feel pretty good about this team. And I almost feel like that Catholic guilt of like feeling good that this might actually be a good team, like a Super Bowl team. Like, I'm not allowed to feel that. Or maybe it's a disappointment for so many years.
I just think they're in a great spot to get into the playoffs, have a great seed. I'd love if there's any way they could get the 1 seed, but they're winning the games that they should win. Is it the best start since 2020? I'd say, like,
it might be.
And just the playoffs are such a crapshoot. I'd like to see McDermott make better decisions. I'd like to see him come out stronger in the first quarter. Like, those are 2 things I think that could really bite them in a 1 game and go home situation.
Well, good thing about
who knows? It's great. It's great tuning in and that they don't suck like we always, franchise quarterback, one of the best 3 in the league. It's a great time to be a Bills fan for sure.
It's hard not to have expectations for your team when they're so good, but it's also hard not to just sit back and realize you're watching greatness with Josh Allen as your quarterback, and how many times it's almost like, if you believe in God, it's almost like we prayed for this and then we finally got it. Like, you have the sickness and you're praying for a cure. It's just like Josh Allen was sent to us, right? Like, he was a cure for our terrible lives as Bills fans for 20 years or so. And then when it doesn't go perfectly, sometimes you're just like, well, what the heck? We're wasting it, as opposed to, let me just sit back and try to enjoy every moment. Like, the the anxiety and also the absolute euphoria when they do win. It's hard to take that in week to week, but I think you kind of succinctly put it with Josh Allen. You know, he's our quarterback, and this is to have a top 3 quarterback is how many teams out there besides the Chiefs and maybe the Ravens, maybe like would kill for your quarterback, right? I mean, this is a great time to be a Bills fan. You're never out of it completely in the season or within any game. So, Mike, I'm going to end on that note. Thank you guys all for tuning in. Thank you guys all for listening. We're going to do our giveaway. You know, we're going to do the giveaway on the Chiefs game. Thank you guys all for leaving some reviews. And then we're going to probably do a giveaway for every week after that. The only guarantees for so if you guys aren't following us and you're new to the podcast, if you leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, then you are going to be in for the running for this Daryl Talley signed jersey. If you comment on our YouTube channel, you're also put in for that. You have to be a subscriber too. And then that's also one way to win. And yeah, we'll do it. The Chiefs game, that'll be a big one too. So, you also have to be listening too. You also have to be either listening or watching. And then when you hear your name or your username or your tag or whatever come up, then you should definitely message us, email us, DM us, tweet us when the time comes, and we give that away. So just a couple more weeks, guys. Get those reviews in. Meg Shocks, who's been following us for a while, Meg says, 5 out of 5 stars, always go Bills. Look forward to listening every week. So fun to hear from lifelong Bills fans that know the history of the franchise. Keep doing what you're doing. I wouldn't say we know it that well. It'll be like this former Bills player died, and I'm like, oh, that's so sad. Wait, who? Like I just don't remember that. John's definitely our history buff, but for someone younger, like Meg might be a lot younger than us. So if she's in her 20s or 30s or whatever, then we definitely know our history because we were alive during the 90s team. So the nostalgia is real. So thank you guys all for listening. Appreciate you guys being a part of this Bills win, this Bills victory. Anyone that's tweeted into us, anyone that left a comment on the streams, thank you guys all for tuning in. Signing off for Mike.
Go Bills. See you next week.
And for me, Nate, go Bills. We'll see you next week. And 7-2.
Bro, you just drone on and on. Before you die, you got to think up your last words in advance. It's going to be painful. You got to have something in your mind to go with, or you're just going to go on.
The whole thing could have just been said, all right, we'll see you next week. This is my chance. This is my chance to say something. I gotta make it worthwhile. I know that when the time comes and I'm on my deathbed, like if my kids still love me at that point, they're gonna be like, it'd be like, so there's something I always wanted to say, and they'll be like, you know what, Dad, you can just let go. Like you don't have to, you should have at least scripted some of this, or at least had a general thought of what you wanted to say. Yeah. Written it down.
Had your whole life to think of it.
Had your whole life to think about it. But just like everything I do, it'll be last minute.
No, you're not going to think of it. No.
Have you thought of it? Have you already wrote?
Guarantee you're going to be like, God damn it.
I had my whole life to think of something. I don't even have a general outline, a bulleted summary.
Remember